Hello everyone and welcome to this SCS Pre-Scene video for November 25 to February 26 exam sitting. In this session, I'll walk you through the key areas we'll cover, with a mix of insights from our partner at FinnTutors and from our own experts here at Practices Academy. For this sitting, we've partnered with FinnTutors to bring you both the industry analysis and the company pre-scene analysis. Alongside that, our own tutors at Practices Academy provide in-depth analysis for each paper, plus mocks and exam-focused resources. And here's something important to know. We are the only provider that gives you as much real exam practice as you'll find in our course, 7 full mocks and 15 additional tasks, making 43 exam-style questions in total. That's more than anyone else in the market. And it's what makes our preparation so effective. Okay, so first, let's remind ourselves of your role in this exam. At the SCS level, you take on the position of the Senior Finance Manager. The examiners are looking for your ability to think and respond as part of the senior leadership team, advising the board and demonstrating the strategic perspective across 3 pillars. We'll then turn into the industry. At this time, it's particularly exciting because we are looking at the electric vehicle sector. This is a dynamic and rapidly changing industry, shaped by innovation, sustainability pressures, and intense competition. For this part, you will see selected clips from FinnTutors' detailed industry analysis. After that, we'll move to the company overview, again with selected extracts from FinnTutors' work, so you will quickly get a sense of the organization, its challenges and opportunities. Finally, we'll dive into the analysis prepared by our own tutors, focusing on likely exam angles through each of the 3 pillars, from E3, mission, vision, and values, plus stakeholder issues, from P3, reputational risk and sustainability, and from F3, mergers and acquisitions, and also pricing issues and post-transactional challenges. These extracts are just samples. In our full course, we explore each of these areas in much greater depth, and you also get access to multiple mocks with detailed feedback and markings. So get your pre-scene document ready, take notes as we go, and let's begin exploring this fascinating case together.
In this video, we're going to have a look at the CIMA case study exams, exactly what they are and what's expected of you in these exams. Case study exams are very different from the OT exams that you sit at each level. CIMA conducted some research before they last revised their syllabus, and it came through very strongly from employers that what they wanted from their accountants were 2 things. They wanted them to be technically strong, and that is what the OT exams are designed to test. But they also wanted accountants to be able to function well in the workplace, which is more than just being technically strong. It's their ability to communicate, to recognise and appreciate issues and come up with practical, work-based, commercially astute advice. And this is what the case study is trying to replicate. It's a work-based simulation. So it is not in any way trying to retest the OT exams that you've passed already. It's about putting you in context and seeing if you can function at an appropriate level in the organisation. The strategic case study is the capstone for the qualification. Once you pass this exam, you are fully qualified. So the role that you're expected to play here is that of a senior finance manager. You are a leader in this scenario. Your audience, the people you'll be writing to, will be people on the board, the finance director and board members, or maybe even the board as a whole. So your ability to lead people, to act as a business partner to business leaders is being tested here. Common simulations that you might see would be to advise on a business strategy to create value, so to advise on a long-term course of action, to advise on corporate governance issues, including the evaluation of the control environment and internal control. So you may have to advise the board on their own structure and how they might need to restructure ideally. You may need to evaluate longer-term strategic decisions and how they should be financed. Maybe make a business case for digitisation and talking about the pros and cons of digitising the business. And you need to consider a wide range of stakeholders and the impact that the decisions have on that wide range of stakeholders. So you need to consider the ethical implications of the decisions that you're proposing. So you are a senior finance manager in this case. You're advising the board, the organisation's leaders, on putting together that long-term business strategy to create value, paying due attention to the organisation's environment, its ecosystem. And risk management will be a significant part of this, so thinking what could go wrong, including cyber risks, because digitisation and the risks associated with that, as well as the opportunities associated with that, are at the heart of every single paper these days in the CIMA qualification. There'd be a duty to advise at this level on corporate governance matters, because these are the people you're speaking to, the people who are governing the organisation. Reputational risks arise from poor governance, as well as the impact that it has on internal control and the well-being of internal and external stakeholders if boards are badly structured or badly managed. So as part of that, you would be frequently involved in ensuring the control environment within the organisation and making sure that internal audit are operating well in making sure that control environment is fit for purpose. So the need to manage control is crucial given increasing dangers arising from cyber risks and cyber security. The frequent requirement to support strategic decision making might require the formulation of models and other methods of justifying and legitimating decisions. So in other words, you need to be able to explain why you think a certain course of action is the best one to go for. The senior finance manager will be involved in raising finance from suitable sources in order to ensure that the new strategic projects are adequately resourced. So you might be asked to discuss various different potential sources and to appraise those sources, not so much in terms of detailed calculations, but practically which sources would be suitable in one circumstance compared to another. The business case for digitisation and the manner in which the entity creates partnerships for ensuring strategic success need to be understood. So in other words, how do we relate to our stakeholders, our collaborators, our fellow collaborators in the ecosystem that we work with, for example. And we must understand how the operation of capital markets play a part in determining the value of our business. So this senior finance manager advises on matters that involve considerable judgment. And as a general sort of statement here, in many ways, the strategic case study, in many ways, is the least technical of the three, believe it or not, because what's really being tested here is leadership, commercial acumen, your ability to help people making those long-term decisions. It's positioning you as an internal business advisor or internal business partner. So that's naturally going to involve the application of judgment and explaining your judgment, explaining why you think certain things should be done a certain way. Because what we're doing here could have a significant effect on the stakeholders of the business. So related to that, we need to consider the ethical impact of decisions that we are supporting. We also need to behave ourselves ethically. So we will be applying the CIMA ethical framework to our own work during the course of executing our responsibilities. The 5 core activities being assessed at this strategic case study are, first of all, your role in developing a business strategy in the first place, evaluating the business ecosystem and environment and seeing what role we have to play in that and how that environment works and affects us. Recommending various different financing strategies. So do we finance by debt? Do we finance by equity? What type of debt? What type of equity? And so on, and why? Evaluating and mitigating risk, thinking about what could go wrong with certain strategies, appreciating that we're not here trying to eliminate risk, but manage it to an acceptable level. And recommend and maintain a sound control environment. Now, when you pass this exam, you're finished, you're qualified, you'll be a member of the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. Now, the format of the strategic case study exam is a little bit different to ones you will have seen before, as we'll see. You're still given a pre-scene pack of information that's released a few weeks before the exam, and the idea with that pre-scene is that it gives you some background on a particular business in a particular industry. It's there to prepare you for the exam day. You don't need to read around that pre-scene massively. A little bit doesn't hurt. But the purpose of that pre-scene is to make sure that everyone that goes into the case study exam is coming from the same level starting point. So when you get that pre-scene, you need to read it, understand it, get to know it, think about the issues that it suggests, and maybe think about the E, P, and F implications of the information we're being given. If there are some financial numbers given in there, which there always is, then you could do some analysis on those. But the purpose of that analysis is not to be able to splurge out a load of numbers on exam day. The analysis is there to just point to the issues that might be relevant when it comes to the real exam. Now, that real exam is 3 one-hour sections, as opposed to 4 45-minute sections that you will have seen before. Each of those sections are equally weighted. There will be several subtasks within each section. You'll notice they're called tasks, not questions. That reflects the fact that they are it's part of a work-based simulation. Each subtask can and often does examine more than one syllabus area. So you could be asked to talk about the opportunities and risks associated with something that could pull even from the E paper and the P paper, all within one subtask. Now, this next point is important. I no doubt you're aware of this already, but you cannot bank time. So you'll be given 1 hour for your first section, and when you move on from that section, if you move on early, you can't bank any time. So if you finish that first section in 55 minutes, you can't carry that 5 minutes forward to the next section. It's just lost. So there is no point finishing any section early. If you finish a couple of minutes early, use that couple of minutes to just polish, even if that means improving the format of what's on the screen in front of you. Formats will be required when you're answering the questions. That could be, for example, emails, memos, reports, and briefing notes, and so on. And again, that's just reflecting the fact that this is a work-based simulation. Now, it's important when you're replying, therefore, that you more or less get a format reasonably correct. So if you're doing a report, to, from, subject, date, introduction, conclusion, and sign off, make it fairly formal. But what's important is the tone. So if you're writing internal emails and memos, they will be less formal than if you're writing a report to the board, for example. So bear that in mind. Your ability to communicate effectively is being examined here. So getting the tone right and the logical flow right within the format that's required is important. You're provided with a word processor to use on the exam day, which is available for you to play with in some test software on the CIMA website. And I would recommend that when you're practicing questions, you focus on using the software on the CIMA website to make sure you're completely used to it by the time you get to the exam. You won't be asked to do any detailed calculations. In fact, you may be asked to do no calculations at all on the day. The detailed calculations have already been examined in the OT papers. So you might be asked to interpret some calculations, talk about what they mean, or critique the assumptions behind them, or talk about some of the non-financial consequences of those calculations and so on. But there won't be much in the way of detailed calculations. I'm not saying leave your calculator at home. Never hurts to have a calculator nearby. But it's unlikely that you'll need to use it much, if at all, in the exam. Equally, you're provided with standard tables, present value, cumulative present value, normal distribution tables. But it's rare that you actually need to use them.
Hi there everybody. So in this video, we are going to do a background industry analysis. For those who don't already know, my name is Devansh. I'm the lead tutor at FinnTutors. We believe that an industry analysis is a very good point to start when we actually do a new pre-scene. So for your November 2025 and Feb 2026, we have received a company that is an electrical vehicle manufacturer. Now, this is a very popular industry right now because there's a lot of EV talk and EV production globally that has been going on. So this is a very good industry for us to have knowledge of. But now my thought process is, okay, the company given to us is called Cumulator. It's a very different spelling. I have chosen to pronounce it like Cumulator. You can pronounce it any way you like. It's a proper noun. But to make it easy, to make it catchy, I have gone with Cumulator. It's the spelling as CIMA gives it is CEWMLATORS. So cumulator or cumulator, whatever you want to call it. So before diving into the cumulator pre-scene, what I would always like to do is have background about that company, that industry, and then I would actually like to start speaking about that company and actually start diving into the pre-scene. Because just randomly, if I pick up the pre-scene, then it becomes a very random document that I'm reading, which I have no background knowledge about. When you're starting a new job, a new role, you do some research, some digging into the industry of that company. So when I am starting my role as a senior finance manager at Cumulator, then obviously I want to be somebody who has a little bit of a background of that company, and then I start to learn about that company so that I can make references and so that I can make sense of the information related to that company when we start with the pre-scene. So this is not information which is part of the pre-scene that's released by CIMA. This is extra research, extra digging on the internet, on different websites that we have done to give you an idea of what the EV manufacturing market is like in today's modern global world. So that when we start with our detailed pre-scene analysis, from page 1 itself, you will know, okay, this is a major trend. What is my company doing? This is a major drawback. What is my company doing? This is the major competition aspect in my market. What is my company doing? These things and these alarm bells will be going on in your mind because we are doing this industry analysis, and it's not going to be something overly detailed or overly technical. Very simple, straightforward industry analysis to give you a great, let's say, flow into the pre-scene. So first we look at the market overview. So the market overview of the electrical vehicle manufacturing business is what we are first looking at the overview. So in 2023, the market size was close to 500 billion. 2024, it grew to 671. And in 2032, it's close to 1,800 billion or 1.8 trillion with a growth rate of close to 14%. It is a huge market because of its popularity nowadays. Plus, it has a hugely positive growth rate. Now, these numbers are varying once you go to, if you do some research on the internet, you will see every website is claiming different numbers. But we don't care because we don't have to quote these numbers anywhere. This is just for us to understand that it's a very large market. It's a very fast growing market. So for Cumulator, your company, it's a very good aspect or a market to be in because you are part of a market that is growing, that is expanding, that is moving fast. So that's my market size. Huge market, growing. Asia Pacific is holding 51% of the market share. Why? Because of China's dominance. We are going to learn about this deeper into the industry analysis as well. But this is important for us to know that the Asia Pacific is the largest market and the US market is also a very large, prominent market. So remember this, we are doing overview. We're not going into details of anything because this is only an overview. So the market is large, Asia Pacific is largest, and the US is also a prominent market. The major drivers in this market, if you look at the industry as a whole, government is supporting this industry. People are moving towards EVs because fuel prices are going up. They are becoming climate aware about the climate and emissions. And costs are also falling. The price of EV cars 5 years ago and today, there is a huge difference. Now, all of this together is pushing the market forward. Asia Pacific, US market, both are very large and is giving us a good growth rate of close to 14%. So if I look at an overall industry outlook, the EV industry is on a sustained growth path, supported by consumer demand, government incentives, and advancing technology. If you look at the overall market, very huge, very large, very much growing, government supporting it, technology supporting it. All of this you've just learned from page number 1. So see, before you started this industry analysis, you were completely in the dark. Now you at least have some background. Okay, this market is large, huge, government is supporting it. If you just take these 3 takeaways, you are still learning. That's the value of the industry analysis. Now specifically, let's focus on the driving factors. Why is there such a large growth rate of close to 14%? Such a large growth rate means obviously there are a lot of factors which are pushing the market forward in the right direction. So first is government subsidies and policies. Now incentives like tax breaks, reduced fees, and subsidies are making EVs more affordable. So EVs are moving in the right direction because of government support. Second, consumer shift to sustainable mobility. Now, growing awareness of climate change and low or zero emission vehicles coming to everybody's mind is also pushing this market forward. Third, governments are enforcing strict CO2 reduction targets, which means government wants people to buy EVs. For technological innovations, battery efficiency, charging speed efficiency, better technology inside the car, all of this is forcing people to further buy. And international accords such as the Paris Agreement are pushing nations towards carbon neutrality, and the biggest way this can be achieved is zero emission vehicles. All of these are pushing my market forwards and giving me a growth rate of close to 14%. Now, when I go to the pre-scene, I want to see, okay, what is my company doing to take advantage of government subsidies? What is my company doing in terms of technology? What is my company doing to reduce my carbon emissions as a factory, as a sourcer, as a battery manufacturer, as much as possible? All of these ideas are only coming to my mind because the seed has been planted because of this industry analysis. Otherwise, nothing is going to come to your mind, obviously. So when something is being discussed as part of this industry analysis, it's opening your mind to a whole set of broad ideas which we can apply, implement when we go to the pre-scene. Now, every market has driving factors, but every market has restraining factors as well. What is stopping the market's growth at 14%? Why is it not 20% or 25%? Because of higher manufacturing and battery costs. EVs remain more expensive than fossil fuel vehicles with limited economies of scale. Heavy investments in weak charging infrastructure is also one drawback. Supply chain constraints all over the world, EVs depend on critical minerals like lithium, cobalt. If you're not mining them and if you're not able to source them, risk, geopolitical risk, overall political risk, price inflation, all of this is creating supply chain problems because this nature of this industry is very global. Remember that. So there are huge bottlenecks in mass manufacturing. Third, limited charging infrastructure. I can buy an EV. Charging infrastructure is still limited if I want to travel distances. Price competition in the EV market itself. Firstly, EVs are expensive than your petrol or let's say fossil fuel vehicles. Secondly, inside the EV market itself, there is huge competition from Chinese manufacturers who have great economies of scales and they're squeezing margins for the others. So price competition, limited infrastructure, supply chain issues, this is the major consideration we must remember, and high manufacturing costs. All of this is bringing the market back. So when I go to the pre-scene, I want to see what am I doing to manage risks? What am I doing to manage my supply chain? What am I doing to increase charging infrastructure? What am I doing in terms of pricing? What am I doing in terms of manufacturing to bring down the costs as much as possible? Again, these seeds have been planted in your mind because of this industry analysis. Otherwise, how are you even going to have these thoughts? How are you even going to have these ideas? So just in 3 pages, if you see, we first did the market overview, then we did the driving factors, then we did the restraining factors, and now we are going to segmentation. Now we are going to segment the market, break the market part by part. First by product, then by distribution, then by competition, then by geography. Lot of market breakages will now come. First, we are breaking the market by product, which means what are the different kinds of products in this market? The first kind of product is a fully battery electric vehicle. These are fully run on battery power. There is no combustion engine. The advantages is there is no emissions at all, lower maintenance. The drawback is high upfront cost, charging cost. Now, this is called BEVs. So battery electric vehicles continue to capture a growing share of the EV market. Over 20% of the market sold are 20% of the cars sold in this market were BEVs. So first category, we have fully battery operated vehicles. This is a big share of the market, has its own advantages and disadvantages. Second, we have plug-in hybrid vehicles. Now, plug-in hybrid vehicles combine an electric motor and an ICE, which means a combustion engine. It has an engine plus it has an electric motor, letting drivers use electronic mode for shorter trips and gas mode for longer ones. There are both in this. Plug-in hybrid has both PHEVs. So it has a plug-in for your electric charging and an ICE motor, internal combustion engine motor, which runs on gas or diesel, whatever you call it. The pros are reduced range anxiety. The cons are obviously complex drivetrain, high cost, still it is burning fossil fuel. The rising PHEV share has pushed down the relative share of BEVs in terms of proportion, because full conversion to BEVs, people are still a little bit apprehensive. But when they give you the option that, okay, you can drive with fossil fuels plus have the option of plugging it in, you get the best of both worlds, people are going for that. So this is an option in this market. Third, we have hybrid electric vehicles. Let me just share it. Hybrid electric vehicles, non-plug-in. Now these use both an combustion engine and an electric motor, but the battery is not charged via plug-in. It's charged through regenerative braking. As many times as you brake, it generates power, it generates momentum, which charges the battery automatically. You don't have to plug it in. So you have fully electric, you have plug-in, and then you have hybrid, which doesn't need charging. They offer better fuel efficiency and lower emissions compared to your traditional cars, obviously, without needing any charging infrastructure. They're not zero emission because they're still, you need to put in gas. So that's still a consideration, but this is an option which is available in this market. So we have 3 major aspects if we look at it. You have battery electric, plug-in, you have hybrid electric. These 3 we want to consider majorly, because when we go to the pre-scene, this helps us understand, okay, what is my company doing is my company involved only in battery electric vehicles? Is my company involved only in plug-in hybrids? What is my company looking at? Because each has its own market share, each has its own niche. So this was my market segmentation by product. Now I am doing market segmentation but by distribution avenues. You made the product, but you need to sell it. You need to make sure your product reaches the customer, right? Otherwise, what's the point of the product? So first way it can reach the customer is by having a traditional dealership. Now, most EVs are sold through authorized dealerships. We're partners with local dealers who stock inventory. Your normal dealership, like you go to a dealership, let's say a Tesla dealership, and that's where you buy your Tesla car from. The pros are that you have a physical presence, trusted local relationship, good after-sales service. The con is that it's high cost of maintaining showrooms. You have lower control for the manufacturer and slower to adopt digital sales. So first way you can sell your product is traditional dealerships or having a franchise model. Second way is manufacturer direct to consumer or online channels. This is what Tesla started. EV automakers like Tesla pioneered selling directly to the customer, bypassing traditional dealerships. You can go to the Tesla website and place an order for your car. The manufacturer has greater control, customer data. The cons are legal restrictions, regulatory restrictions, logistics, delivery infrastructure, all of that which you'll have to set up. This is important because when I go to the pre-scene, I want to figure out, do we have traditional models? Then why not think of online models? Do we already have an online model? Then what are we doing to better my logistics, better my delivery, better my customer data usage? I can think of all of this, right? Third, agency models. In this model, OEMs use dealerships. So manufacturers use dealerships as agents to fulfill online or customer sales contracts, but retain ownership of vehicles and pricing. The dealers will earn a commission. So you have a front, but your sales happen online. This front is only used for your customer sales. It's only used as an agent. So again, this is better control. You can combine online plus local test drive service. This is an agency model. You have an agent or you have a front where people can come in, test drive, look at, or come in for a test drive, come in for a service. But everything is still sold online. Now, dealers will resist this because they are losing margin, right? You're only using them rather than giving them a margin on the sale of each vehicle. Logistics will be complex, inventory will be complex, but these are new ways of selling. Fourth, we have flagship stores, pop-up stores, business to consumer marketplaces. These formats include temporary pop-up stores. You would have seen online marketplaces or aggregators, brand experience centers being set up in the middle of a city center or a big mall. This is where people can go, look at the car, be inspired by the car, and maybe converts to a sale. So this is a new way that we have seen nowadays in the market. But overall, when I go to the pre-scene, I want to see which is my major distribution avenue, which is my major distribution, let's say, output. And this gives you ideas of what else your business can do. Otherwise, how? You don't even know any of this. You might even own an EV, but you've not thought of any of this. That's why the industry analysis is important, which we always conduct. Let's start first. Company background. Established in 1952, initially manufacturing a range of internal combustion engines, listed on the stock exchange in 1968. So founded in 1952, in 16 years we got listed on the stock exchange. Now very clearly, first we need to be aware that we as a brand, as a company, has been in the market for almost 73 years, right? Because 2025 minus 1952. So 73 years is what we have been in the market for. Do you know any company in the whole wide world that has existed for 73 years and is not doing well? Obviously, you existed for 73 years because you have a very good brand image. You have a very good market image. People are liking your products. People are liking what you are selling. And that is why you have this market dominance as well. So we need to remember that we have goodwill, we have brand power because we have been in the market for 73 years. Again, remember, we are doing this pre-scene in so much detail because first, to understand the company, second, to pick E3, P3 and F3 topics, but third, I am always giving you ideas which you can keep with you. And then you can use it in my practice questions. For example, start your answer by saying, okay, Simulator has been in the market for 73 years, which showcases that we have good brand image, for example. If you include information from my discussions, from my pre-scene within your practice questions or practice mocks that you'll do with me, we'll do lots of practice, 25 mock questions, most in the industry, most in the market, because we believe that is where the actual learning will happen. So we'll give you the chance to practice your learning from the pre-scene within the mock questions. We'll guide you on what is right, what is wrong. We'll mark you on it. And then when you take this experience to the final exam, trust me, your preparation is going to be completely different. But remember that you have to use it because you are a senior manager at Simulator. Anything you say, anything you speak has to be related to Simulator. Moving on. Market position. Firstly, we focus on mid-market cars that balance attractive design with value for money. Built a reputation for innovation, introducing new technology in both car design and the manufacturing process. So our market position started with, firstly, focusing on mid-market cars, so mid-value. We already have a culture of innovation in design as well as in manufacturing. Remember this, you are already innovating from the start. Your cars are designed to be enjoyable, exciting to drive, while ensuring safety for drivers and passengers. Now the move into electric vehicles happened in 2012. An all-electric model with a range of 219 kilometers was introduced. By 2020, phase out of ICE cars internally, which means we stopped making and selling ICE cars. Now we produce only battery electric vehicles positioned as best in class for range from the mid-market. Remember, we have now transitioned to the best in class. You are not focusing on mid-market, mid-value. You are best in class for range, performance and value for money as well. So a good price, not cheap price. A good price because that's going to give you best in class range, best in class performance. That is what has become synonymous with Simulator since the last 5 years, where we introduced BEVs, or rather we phased out of ICE and completely focused on BEVs. That is why we are one of the market leaders in BEVs as well. The Simulator's early innovation track record highlights his core competency. Remember, your major resource, your major core competency is innovation. Next, as Simulator phased out of ICE and scaled BEVs, robust audit processes would have been essential to ensure stakeholders that safety and efficiency standards are being met. This can be true for a new scenario as well. Tomorrow they'll say that the market for plug-in hybrids is also growing very much. I want to start let's say plug-in hybrids, in one part of the world. So they'll tell you, okay, what audit processes do we need to focus on? So you'll tell them that from my P3 knowledge, we'll focus on the compliance audit, quality audit, environmental audit. All of this is stuff that we will check. So that's, again, an audit perspective coming up over here. Now, EVs depend on complex software systems. All of us know this. An EV is all about technology. When technology comes in, cyber security governance, cyber security risk, IT risk comes into the picture. IT risk, IT management, cyber security, fraud risk is a very big part of P3 and it's going to be tested in this exam. From F3, heavy BEV investment may limit dividend capacity. As you more and more invest in BEVs, research, development, it might not be possible to keep paying a dividend to shareholders. So different dividend policies will have to be considered and different life cycles in simulators' life to make sure that we are retaining money when needed and paying back money to our shareholders to keep them happy as well. Because signaling effects are important. F3 syllabus. Now they have told us that we produce a range of cars. The first car that we produce is called the simulator Tiny. As the name suggests, and as we go by the image, it's a small BEV designed for urban commuting. 2 passengers plus limited luggage, the range is 143. Then we have simulator Trap. Small BEV combining versatility and performance. Over here, 5 passengers plus a large boot. The rear seats fold as well to increase the boot space. It's sporty on open roads, yet compact. The range is 254. Next, we have simulator Twists. This is a BEV SUV aimed at family. So we have a small car. We have let's say a hatchback. And then we have a SUV as well. 5 adults in comfort plus very large boot, folding rear seats, 375 kilometers per charge. And then last we have simulator Scorch. This is our sports car. So 2 passengers plus boot space for a weekend luggage. It's a sports car, so 0 to 100 it reaches in 3 seconds and the range is 400 kilometers. So now if I look at it, Tiny, which is an urban 2-seater, maybe a question mark in your BCG matrix because you don't know if that's going to work, if people will like it. While Twists and Scorch are going to be your stars. Trap sits in the cash cow mid segment. Portfolio analysis will be very important to make sure that, okay, my product is important to me and that is why I am focusing on it. What is the life cycle of the product? Where each product is falling? Which are my major products? That's why I keep mentioning the BCG. Now I'm thinking of joint expansion in game theory. The simulator could consider acquiring a battery recycling firm or partnering with the local assembly plants in growth markets. So competitor reactions, if I do this, what will my competitor do? Must be anticipated, and this is game theory. So if you do something, what will your competitor do? Is your competitor going to match it, let it go, do his own thing? This was just an example. It could be anything. Okay, if I do this, it could be any scenario where they say, okay, you did this. What do you think is the analysis of this scenario from the game theory perspective? So your game theory knowledge from E3, P3 becomes very important over here. Moving on, again, one more aspect I want to speak about is systematic and unsystematic risk from F3. Now, premium models like Scorch lift margins and valuation multiples because obviously it's going to be premium priced because it's a sports car. While warranty exposure, battery degradation, introduces unsystematic risk. Any acquisition should use DCF with scenario adjusted cash flows. We need to remember this. When you're doing any acquisition, you're using the discounted cash flow method. You need to keep in mind scenarios. You need to keep in mind the industry that we are in, which is affected by a lot of unsystematic, which you can control, and systematic, which you cannot control, which is outside exposure, regulations and all of that, which will highly affect your business. Next, market position. Now, all models are highly competitive. They're telling us ranking in the top 3 for range within their market segment. Strong reputation for build quality and innovation. This is again my core competency. Coming to warranty. This is very important in the BEVs market because people are very concerned about the battery life. So warranty is a very important differentiator. Let's know this. The duration is 8 years or 160,000 kilometers. Covers the entire car including the battery. Any manufacturing defects corrected at simulators dealerships free of charge. If there is a manufacturing defect, we'll correct it for them free of charge. Replaced under warranty if range decreases by 20% or more within 8 years. If the range goes down by more than 20% within 8 years, you'll change the battery. Or the car for that matter. Warranty valid only if the car is maintained and operated according to the owner's handbook. Now, warranty performance can be tracked as key performance indicators. What was the average repair cost per vehicle under warranty? What was the percentage of cars needing a battery replacement? Because this will clearly tell you, okay, where you need to focus on, because these are all costs for you, right? If a car comes back in with a manufacturing defect, it's a cost for you. If you have to change the battery, it's a cost for you. So KPIs will be key to make sure that we are serving customers well and we are in that same space reducing the cost for myself. Again, because these warranty costs is directly going to affect your profitability. These are costs, right? So they're affecting your margins, they're affecting your ROCE. Now, model variants. We go to trim levels. Each model is available in 3 trims. So we have 4 models: the Tiny, the Hatchback, Trap, Twix, and Scorch. 4 models, 3 variants each, which means total roughly 12 products. 4 into 3, 12 products. 4 major models. Under each model, we have 3 trims, where the first is the base trim. So this is designed to be as affordable as possible, removing unnecessary features, because this is targeting cost-conscious buyers. The features are fabric seats and thin carpets, no sound system in base, Tiny, and Trap to conserve battery power. The most popular for Tiny since it's primarily intended for short journeys. So the base trim is most popular for Tiny, people who are cost conscious, extended range, and who only want to drive in the city. Second, we have the Lux trim. This provides a better quality trim and more features, like a satellite navigation system. For Trap and Twix, superior folding rear seats with 3 possible configurations. You can have 3 passengers, no boot space, 2 passengers, boot space, 1 passenger, boot space. Standard stuff. Base trim for Trap and Twix only allows the rear seat to fold as a single unit. The base only allows the rear seat to fold as a single unit. The other, the Lux trim, has different variations. 1 seat can fold, 2 seats can fold. This is most popular for Trap and Twix as customers prefer a balance of comfort and price. So those who are buying Trap and Twix are mainly going for the Lux trim. Then we have Grand Lux, highest level of luxury. Thick carpets, luxury seats, superior sound system, all kind of cameras. Most Scotch models, which is your sports car, is sold in Grand Lux trims. Customers view it as a luxury sports car, and the buyers are prepared to pay a little more but get a premium product. So your Trap and Twix are mainly going for the Lux trim. Your Tiny, your cheapest, is going for the base trim, and Scotch majorly is selling under the Grand Lux trim because it's a premium product. Now, offering 3 trims allows us to pursue differentiation, allows us to pursue cost leadership as well. You can reduce the price as much as possible in your base trim, so a variety of customers can buy your products. Overall, every product carries brand reputation risk. If you do not deliver on the quality standards you have promised, the quality standards that you are advertising, then naturally it's not going to be good for your brand.
The first issue, as you can see, is the mission, vision, and values. Let's jump right into it. The mission, vision, and values fall a great deal relating to E3 areas. So we're talking about things like building a strategy for the company through our mission, vision, and values. Now, if you look at our mission is to make the world a better place by providing desirable and sustainable motor vehicles. I'm going to talk about desirable here and sustainable. So we see that from our mission, we are focused on desirable means we want to satisfy our customer. We're concerned about quality. So the word desirable brings in a lot of aspects, whether it is quality, whether it is features. All of these are taken into account when we say desirable. And sustainable means we're going to consider the environmental aspect. Then what's our vision? Our vision is to be the leading manufacturer of sustainable motor vehicles. So our vision any day is to become the leading manufacturer. So we are the third largest, but we want to maybe become the first electric vehicle company, the most with the largest market share in the world. Then what are our values that complement our mission and vision? First, constantly innovating. So to be able to achieve our mission, to be able to achieve our vision, we're talking about innovation. We're talking about sustainability because that's one of our core principles. Then we're talking about quality. And we're talking about paying attention to the needs and desires of our customers. So if you compare our values to our mission and vision, you need to be able to tell, okay, these values complement this aspect of the vision and mission. So for an example, being committed to enhancing sustainability directly goes in line with both our mission and vision because you have sustainability in there. Then talking about quality goes with the aspect of being desirable in our mission, and also to become a leading manufacturer, you need to have quality. Again, you need innovation to become a leading manufacturer and to become desirable. Then, of course, meeting the needs and desires of customers is what would make our product desirable. So, our values seem to translate well to our mission and vision. And if you look at our vision and mission, it's closely aligned with sustainability trends, with environmental consciousness, and also positioning ourselves well away from internal combustion vehicles. So we are all about moving ahead. But if you look at our values, now we're talking about desirability, sustainability, all of that. We need to bear in mind that cost can be an issue for us. Costs can be an issue because we're talking about innovation, we're talking about quality, but offering something desirable to customers based on their needs and desires might be a problem because electric vehicles are significantly higher than internal combustion engine vehicles. So this might be something to consider. So what are the possible issues based on this? So assuming we want to re-evaluate or re-look at our mission, vision, and core values, you might need to evaluate their relevance to check if they're appropriate and also communicate, for an example, if we are choosing to follow a certain course, whether it is in line with our current mission, because our mission translates to our strategy of the company. Now, we spoke about it a bit in our previous slide about how our core values are communicating relevant aspects relating to our mission and vision. So that's good. But also when we're talking about our core values, we need to think if it addresses the needs of our stakeholders, addresses the needs of wider stakeholders. So for an example, needs of employees, shareholders are not communicated in the core values. But ideally, core values should address this. Then when it comes to evaluating the relevance of our current mission, your examiner can give you new areas. This is why the pre-scene is there. And using these new areas, you'll really evaluate whether our mission needs to change a bit, whether it is in alignment, or could we become more specific in line with our purpose. So then we come to our next aspect, which is stakeholders. So I don't need to say much on this. If you have gone through your pre-scene, you would understand that we deal with a wide range of stakeholders, not just a wide range of stakeholders, but a complex structure of stakeholders. So examples, customers. So we have our customers from they will have different price levels. Some will go for premium ranges, some will go for the basic levels of vehicles, big, large, sports, varied customers. Then we have our dealerships that sell and maintain accumulator cars. We have our employees, they're very important, from the operational production level employees to the board level. We have our suppliers. We need to maintain a close relationship with critical suppliers such as lithium battery suppliers. We have different communities that we interact with. So we need to focus on their needs if we are to continue our manufacturing processes. So these are just a few among many stakeholders. Now, if you look at the stakeholders, like I said, we have a complex stakeholder environment. I would characterize it as a complex stakeholder environment, and there can be potential conflicts. For an example, we haven't even covered stakeholders here, but stakeholders and shareholders we haven't even covered. But shareholders and employees, there might be a conflict, or even customers and shareholders, there may be a conflict. For an example, dealers may struggle with electric vehicle transition cost. Customers may face price premiums to buy electric vehicles. We might have supply chain dependency issues. So a lot of different issues related to different stakeholders, whether it is our dealers, whether it is our customers, whether it is our suppliers. Then to add on to it, we have multi-country operations. So multi-country operations make it even complex. Multi-country operations doesn't make it easier because now we're dealing with customers from different countries. So new things may come into play. We're dealing with employees possibly from different countries, if applicable. Or in the future, it could be possible. Or we're dealing with suppliers from different countries. So that makes it even more complex, especially as our manufacturing facilities are in different countries, local communities as well. So huge, complex, diverse community stakeholder needs to be managed. Now, why am I elaborating on this or talking about the obvious? Because it needs to sink down to you, because at the strategic level, you will be involved in managing these different stakeholders. You need to, as much as possible, manage them in a way that doesn't isolate any one stakeholder, that doesn't upset any one group, of stakeholders. Next, we have how to manage these stakeholders through the possible examinable questions. So, the impact, for an example, on a particular decision on the different stakeholders. So, remember, an event, a decision will sometimes impact all stakeholders. It might impact specific stakeholders. True, it might have impact on a lot of stakeholder groups. But what your examiner really wants you to do here is based on the weight of the subtasks. Based on the weight of the subtasks, like for an example, if it's 50%, I tell my students, if it's 50%, you have about 16 marks. So you would need to write about 8 points and explain them. So, for an example, the classic question is evaluate the impact of a decision on different stakeholders and how to manage each of these stakeholders. So, actually, every point should carry two aspects. One is the impact, and second is the management. So, therefore, I would say 4 stakeholder groups are enough, but not broad stakeholder groups. Look at the 4 specific groups that have had an impact. And 1 point you talk about the impact, and the other point you talk about how to manage them in 2 separate paragraphs. So you will have 2 separate paragraphs for these 4 stakeholder groups. Now this is how you would manage your answer. So you're not asked to talk about all stakeholders, but the very specific stakeholders that are affected by the event. Similar to our next subtask, how could we manage our stakeholders through a transition? Again, either your examiner in the exam will give you the specific stakeholders, then again it's easier. But if not, you need to go for the specific stakeholders. Of course, there's nothing wrong if you have a concluding paragraph talking about some of the impacts to the other stakeholders. So, possibly, if you like, now this is the cherry on top of a cake or cherry on top of something, you can have a concluding paragraph talking about on other stakeholder impacts. So some of the stakeholders you don't cover. But that's about it. Now, what are the examinable areas? So, we have identified numerous risks and we need to manage them. So, we need to think of different areas in our that you could be examined on. And if you look at our current risk, some of the management, the approach towards risk management currently seems more reactive than proactive. So if we are to change this, if we are to use enterprise risk management systems, your examiner could ask you, what are the key principles? How can we use enterprise risk management? How do we identify our risk? So if we are to have a formal enterprise risk management system, how do we identify our risk? And what's the role of a risk committee? What's the role the risk committee will play in managing identified risk? So these are some of the questions relating to risk management. Now focusing on reputational risk. Now reputational risk can stem from obviously all these risks we spoke about and certain specific risk as well. So from a reputational aspect, we talk about our quality. We talk about innovation capabilities. We talk about sustainability. So these are the key things I would see as very important based on what we talk about as priding ourselves. We talk about being a top market player. So then if there is a lapse in these, for an example, there is a lapse in even warranty, all of these claims we make, now that can affect us adversely. It can damage our reputation if there's a quality defect. If we fail to give an innovative product out, sustainability credentials are not met. Now that can affect our reputation. In addition to it, current vulnerabilities, some of these might be a little bit of a repetition of some of the risks we covered earlier. So we would go by them fast. There is more emissions in manufacturing electric vehicles. And this, even though we're making environmental claims about how electric vehicles are good, it's really not really good when it comes to manufacturing. Manufacturing causes emissions, recycling causes, there's battery recycling difficulties. So therefore, we might have accusations about greenwashing. They might accuse us we are appearing to show that we're a sustainable company, but we're not really sustainable in a real sustainability sense. Then there might be quality related risk. If the battery degrades faster than our warranty claims, then high replacement cost of batteries. Now, all of this could significantly affect our reputation. For an example, if customers keep complaining about vehicles they buy from us, the cars they buy from us, and how it's really not performing well, the batteries are not performing well, now that is going to really affect us. In addition, we have supply chain related risk or supply chain ethical vulnerabilities. For an example, are we ethically sourcing our lithium, other metals? How is our mining operations? Or for an example, we don't do that, but how are the mining operations of our suppliers? Are there any social concerns, environmental concerns? Are the suppliers' practices transparent enough? We need to know these because we live in a environment, a society which is concerned. We can't just say that we are ethical, we are sustainable, if we don't look into these wider scopes of our supply chain. So any gap in this could significantly affect us. Then data privacy. So our cars collect a lot of information. So if there are data breaches, misuse of data, and if we don't disclose what data we are collecting in a transparent manner, this is obviously again going to affect us significantly. It's going to affect our reputation adversely. So one of the key, after we spoke about all these reputational risks, one of the key aspects is, I would say, the gap we have between the fact that we claim that we're sustainable and reality. So we need to really evaluate the gap between claiming we are sustainable and reality. We need to reduce this gap as much as possible. We need to try to reduce it, reduce the manufacturing, the emissions of producing electric vehicles. We need to look at better ways of recycling, look at alternative battery technologies to really help us to minimize this risk, because I see this as one of the main risks. Now, if you get a question on reputational risk, for an example, a major supplier is using child labor, paying extremely low wages. How would you handle this? So, for an example, you might be asked to talk about it from an ethical perspective. So, as you would have seen, always refer to the CIMA Code of Ethics. I refer to the 5 fundamental principles when you're giving your answer. Do not comment on them. Evaluate each principle that's conflicted or that seems like it has a conflict, and talk about the correct course of action. Always take action if there is an ethical issue, because you cannot remain silent. Then causes of reputational damage. I think that's what we spoke in the previous slide. Good points for an answer if needed. Then how do we manage these reputational risks? So spend time to identify each of these areas. How can we manage it from a realistic perspective? How do we handle it? At the same time, if it does realize, another point is, what is the reputational crisis management? Reputational crisis management. How do we manage the crisis of a reputational issue? How do we develop a comprehensive reputational risk framework. So all of these might be key points under reputational risk. Next, moving on, mergers and acquisitions. Now, again, very much a part of your F3 syllabus. You are a part of the senior management of the company. You're a senior finance officer. So a senior finance manager. So as part of being in the management level, you are going to be a part of mergers and acquisitions. For an example, we could talk about acquiring a competitor in a different country, and we need to evaluate. You need to be able to evaluate if we should go ahead with the acquisition or not. Then you need to be aware of matters such as the different defenses the company could adapt against us if they don't like our acquisition that we are proposing. Then the valuation, how do we value the company? How do we pay the consideration, the amount? Do we pay cash, share exchange, a future consideration, contingent consideration? You need to think of things such as synergies, post-purchase integration related issues, because at the end of the day, we acquire this company hoping to achieve benefits from it. So to achieve benefits, we need to bear in mind the synergies that we want to achieve, and we need to maintain that consistency to make sure the company integrates well with us. So different complex issues related to mergers and acquisitions. So first of all, the most fundamental question your examiner could ask you, presenting scenarios of a possible acquisition or a merger, is for you to do a bit of an evaluation and talk about, so this would be more of an evaluation, and talk about should we go for this acquisition or not. So here you can either use the SAF framework to answer this. So now at this point, don't ask me what the SAF framework is. Like I said, this is not an F3 revision. It's a suitability, acceptability, and feasibility framework. Now this is where you will write this down, and after you finish watching this video, you will do your homework on this if you feel like you have forgotten. Or you might do the pros, that's the benefits of going ahead with the acquisition, the cons, and the recommendation. Remember, you're at the strategic level, so always give recommendations, especially for things like these, where it's like you're asked about a merger, an acquisition, what should we do? Always give recommendations. Do not just give points, but in the end, always give your recommendation. And of course, your recommendation should be backed by a short description of why you recommend it. Next, briefly identify and explain different sources of synergy. So, how do synergies come about? So, increase market share, economies of scale, combining complementary skills the two companies have together. All of these might be sources of synergy. Next, why might the acquisition or merger fail? So again, you will have unseen information. So you will also have your general common sense you can use and your financial skill. But in addition to this, your unseen will likely give you information. Like for an example, it will tell you maybe that this product has been struggling in the market. So this product, in this sense, it might be, this is another electric vehicle company. So they have been struggling. They have been finding it hard to find a suitable market. Quality issues have been there. Now these should ideally be points on your exam day. So the key is, keep your answers applicable to the unseen as much as possible. Even though we're going through these, sometimes a lot of your answers will be based on the unseen, because that's what we are expecting at the strategic level. Next, pricing issues and post-transaction issues. So this is where we come to the pre-bid and post-bid defenses. So the pre-bid defenses there is quite a bit. There's about 4 about communicating with shareholders, trying to convince them not to sell their shares, revaluing a non-current asset so that the company's value goes up, poison pill, changing articles of association. But now assuming a bid is already made, they may appeal to their shareholders not to sell the shares. They might counterbid, or if it's a competitor, and if it's against competition, they may refer us to the competitive authorities. So different pre and post bid defenses. Next, identify the different forms of consideration that can be used in an acquisition. So I think I mentioned this earlier. There can be cash consideration, share. So it can be one of these, or a multiple of these could be used. So there might be a future consideration, or there might be even a contingent. Depending on maybe achieving this profit, we will pay an additional amount in the future. Now, just moving back on the pre-bid and post-bid defenses, a quick reminder, and this again is applicable to any subtask, but I'm just giving a specific reminder with this subtask. Now, yes, if you do your revision, you understand the pre and post-bid defenses, you will know them. But remember, also when you're giving your answer, you want to give the pre-bid and the post-bid defenses that are most applicable to the scenario, to the current situation. For an example, there might be certain options that are not the best in the situation. For an example, if shareholders want to sell the shares, then appealing to shareholders might not be the best. If we don't have a close relationship with shareholders, that might not be the best. So giving that point really implies to the examiner that you're not living within the company. You're not being sensible. So the point is, your answer points, this is just an example, should be applicable to the scenario. So use your common sense while using the relevant F3 areas.
If you're feeling a bit overwhelmed with everything you need to cover, don't worry. We've created structured, tutor-led packages to take the guesswork out of the SCS preparation. Starting with the Essential package, this gives you our full pre-scene analysis set, theory revision materials, and 3 high-quality mocks with 15 standalone tasks. It's perfect if you want to practice independently, but still follow a proven study plan. The Advanced package gives you even more. It includes 5 full mocks and personalized marking for one of them. Plus, we add a special video covering the key pre-scene issues our tutors believe are most likely to appear in your exam. That insights alone can really sharpen your focus. The Master package is our most popular. You'll get 6 mocks and marking services for 3 of them, along with everything from the Advanced package, including the key issues video. But here's what really sets it apart. You'll also get access to our exclusive repository of past exam questions, organized by paper, E3, P3, and F3. This is a treasure trove for past examiner trends, phrasing, and recurring topics. It's like having an examiner's playbook. Finally, our Ultimate package gives you all of that, plus service of 5 markings of mocks and 3 personal one-on-one tutor sessions. If you want full accountability and expert guidance, this one is for you. You can browse the packages and enroll directly at practicetestacademy.com/SCS. And no matter which option you choose, you'll be following the structured 7-week plan we covered earlier in this video. That's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay focused, follow the plan, and I'll be cheering you on the exam day. Goodbye for now.